Hey, this is Brooks Wackerman from Avenged Sevenfold. Let's break down some drum parts.
It's great to have you here, man.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
We're backstage right before the show here in Vancouver, so let's go to the kit and let's talk about some parts. This one has some like double bass ruffs in the intro.
Yeah, here we go. So to me, those are just like, you know, what Bozio was doing with Missing Persons. Like, feet mimicking the hands, you know? So growing up, I mean, Terry is one of my drumming heroes. So like once I heard Jimmy do that, I'm like,
it's like, there it is.
There it is. Good. I'm glad, you know.
Do you know if Jimmy was a Bozio fan?
He was a Zappa fan.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm sure Bozio was definitely one of his dudes.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I heard he used to play the Black Page, and but yeah, definitely a musical genius.
Obviously, you come from a family that there's a lot of music history.
There's a lot of noise.
There's a lot of noise in the house, I can imagine. What's that like when you grow up with brothers who play drums, and did your dad play drums as well?
Yeah, my dad was a music educator for 60 years, and drums was his main instrument.
So what was that like even growing up, and was there stuff you learned when you were younger that prepared you for this gig?
Sure, everything did. All the bands that I played in prior to, you know, all my professional gigs prepared me for what I'm doing now, and my studies with Murray Spivak, the classical snare drum teacher that I took for 6 years, Chuck Florey's jazz independence teacher. You know, even though I discovered rock, metal, punk by myself, their techniques and how I implement the finesse into the style of music really made a difference. And you know, I'm not screaming in pain after a 2.5 hour show. I can hit the drum hard enough, but not too hard where it's gonna choke the drum. And if I am playing too hard, I'm aware of it because of my musical education with those Yodas.
It's cool from your perspective coming in from like an educated background and how you can still thrive in a setting like that and approach it with that kind of background.
Yeah, I mean, I look at drummers like, you know, Jimmy Chamberlin, who, you know, comes from a jazz background, yet, you know, he plays with the Pumpkins and lays into it, or even Josh Freese, who's, you know, hitting very hard in the Foo Fighters, but he has this finesse about him where, you know, he's playing rock and roll, but it feels good. You know, it's kind of this, I don't know, sexiness to their playing that I've always been attracted to.
There's a bunch of stuff in the intro on this one.
Yeah.
A bunch of other parts too.
Yeah, he was the first drummer. I think he got it from maybe some Scandinavian drummers or some Icelandic metal drummers who would play the hands in unison with the feet. And I had never heard that in metal before until Avenged. Yeah, we'll go to the verse. So, yeah, I really had to work on my singles on that. Because it's just like flurry of almost like Billy Cobbin, you know,
Totally.
Mahavishnu stuff.
Nice. how did you get the gig with Avenged Sevenfold?
So when I played in Bad Religion, we used to do something called the Warped Tour every other year. And Avenged was on most of those tours that I did. So that was my introduction into Avenged. They were familiar with my work in Infectious Grooves, which was one of the first like big bands that I joined in the mid 90s when I was a teenager. So there was a record called Groove Family Psycho that they loved, and they loved the songs and the playing on it. So I guess I was always like on the radar. But obviously Jimmy was the original drummer, and they formed the band in high school, and then tragedy happened, and so they went through I think a couple drummers after him, and their tour manager Dione was my personal tour manager, and we went out to dinner, talked about our goals, and they were writing The Stage at the time, which was the record that I ended up, the first record that I did with the band, and it just felt right.
Nice.
So I was with Bad Religion for 15 years, and I just wanted to open a different door stylistically, and I love their music. I remember watching them on the Warped Tour just going, how is this band getting away with 9-minute songs in a half an hour set?
Yeah.
There was no other band like them on the Warped Tour, so after seeing them, I was just always impressed by their work ethic, and we had a lot of mutual friends, so it just felt like a natural transition to move into.
First of all, does this one have samples, like hi-hat samples or anything in there?
It's all me.
It's all you.
So what I will reveal is the hi-hat part, which is very staccato. That was an overdub on the record. But live, I mean, I'm able to play the parts, but we switch hi-hats to I think they're 12s.
Okay.
And they're just fused together as tight as my tech can get them. So yeah, no samples
Okay.
at all. I think there's 808s occasionally, but yeah, the main groove is. So no variation in dynamics. It's just very staccato. So that's primarily what I'm focusing on when I play that groove, because I want it to sound as trappy as humanly possible. Yeah,
so, and then there's some double ride stuff in this one as well.
Yeah.
Which to me seems like classic Avenged. Yeah. The double ride thing.
Yeah. So in the studio, I'm doing double rides, but the second bell is actually a 20-inch crash bell that I'm riding on. So yeah, it's the same beat, and I just move my hands over to the right and the crash, and that's it.
Are you doing Almost Easy on this tour?
I wish we were, but
because that has double ride thing as well, right?
Yeah, Almost Easy is. Yeah, I never knew about the double ride until I saw Jimmy execute the double rides. So that whenever I'm doing double rides, it's a homage to him.
So coming from Bad Religion, moving to Avenged, what would you say was the biggest difference drumming-wise?
The double kick, yeah. Granted, I did introduce the double pedal into the Bad Religion sound when I joined. It was not as prominent as it is with Avenged. So I think just woodshedding on getting my left foot to match my right was probably the biggest challenge, because I mean, some of those songs on City of Evil and Nightmare are demanding, But as we were talking about, like I listened to metal growing up and played double kick my entire life. So it was a transition, but then in a way, not really, because I'm familiar with that style of drumming. So
almost back to your roots.
Back to the roots, yeah. Because I grew up listening to, Van Halen's 1984 and Tommy Aldridge, Tommy Lee, and Terry Bozzio.
Yeah.
So, I was definitely a double kick drummer. And then once I started playing with punk bands, that reduced, but then got back into it. So,
nice.
Yeah.
Let's jump to some of the older stuff. So you said one of your favorites is Nightmare.
Yes.
And this is like a classic for drummers.
Yeah.
So how do you approach the intro specifically?
So I just try and play my kicks and hands as even as humanly possible, because I want the attack there. I use wood beaters. So here we go. It's funny, my brothers growing up would call that the hula fill, because it sounded like hula, 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 hula.
Nice.
So yeah, whenever I play double kicks, I'm just always thinking about keeping every hit as even as possible. Even if I'm, the chorus of Nightmare. I just, try and drive it as best I can.
Yeah. And then are you doing some other like double bass embellishments in the solo or anything like that, or is it pretty much straight through?
Well, the solo, there's a time change. Well, we go back to the intro. So, dun, 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 dun. I'm playing it way too fast. And then we go. So those are just groups of 4. When I first heard it, I thought they were groups of 3, until I realized I was playing it wrong for the first couple weeks, and then I changed to groups of 4. And again, you just want to make that as attacky as possible. I just think of machine guns.
Yeah, that's exactly what it sounds like.
Southern machine guns down there.
Yeah. Coming into a band that has so much history with Jimmy and Portnoy and some of the other drummers who have recorded on some of the records, how do you approach learning some of the studio stuff compared to some of the stuff you've recorded when you're doing that live? Yeah,
so I think the biggest challenge there is to honor the original recordings. There's certain fills that you just have to play. This is the second established band that I've joined before. It's kind of a tug of war between, okay, definitely gonna play that fill, but then here's a window where I can maybe add a new flavor that represents who I am as a drummer. And then coming from a jazz background, I love improvising too. So there's an improvisational side to me that I tap into live, and I love watching songs evolve, even on this tour. How I was playing certain songs 2.5 weeks ago, it's different now. Whether it's a crescendo somewhere in the song, or a fill that I'll tweak a little, and the band will look at me like I'm from Mars and go, oh, maybe that does work. That's the second song on the record, and we'll take it after the intro. So imagine the verse beat, just straight 16ths on the hi-hat. So that's the first verse, and then the second verse, I I do the same pattern, but just modify the kick fill too. So I bring in a couple herdas, and then we have a tempo change in the bridge of that song, and I'm doing 6 tuplets on the hat. It's a halftime groove, so it goes staccato, hats again. And then I move it to the kick drums. This is a stack there.
Yeah.
Kind of a Stuart Copeland ride pattern. So
nice.
That's
a wicked part.
Thank you. Thank you.
Unholy Confessions with those bursts on the kick.
Yep.
I think a lot of people get confused whether they're groups of 4 or groups of something else.
Okay, so how many is that? 5? I've never counted it.
There you go.
So
Demystified.
Yeah, I guess they're groups of 5. Then at the end of that song, Jimmy wrote a really cool double kick part. I'll do that album tempo because live we really make it sluggish. So nice. I always love that pattern that he wrote on that.
Yeah.
So, but live it's like we start there, and then I end. So that's the arena. That's the arena
greasy
rock.
Slow down.
Yeah, that's the
That's great.
The heroin tempo.
Nice. What are some of your favorite songs to play live, like drum-wise or even just songs to play?
I love the song Afterlife, Nightmare. Those are 2 songs that I'll never get sick of. From the new record, Mattel, some interesting syncopated double kick parts on that. I love the stage. So yeah, I mean,
nice.
I'd say those are the ones that speak to me the most.
This was the first record
you
played on. The intro to this song has a pretty cool double bass part.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was the hardest task I've ever taken on as a double bass player. So I'll actually show you originally what my part was, if I can remember it.
Yeah.
And it just consists of Swiss triplets. I think it was. And then at some point, I think I went. Playing it faster than I should, but that was kind of the impetus into what it turned into. So I scratched that, and we had a band meeting about like what we want the intro to sound like. It was, the first song on the record, title track. So we came up with the idea of like a machine starting up, getting more complicated in rhythm, and some type of climax happening on the last 16 bars. So first part is. So the whole intro is based around the Herta rhythms, you know.
Very cool.
And I was inspired by Thomas from Meshuggah, you know, the famous song. Yeah, Bleed.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the first part, and then I incorporate toms. I'm just gonna do a makeshift version of it. So the hands come in unison with my kick pattern. So now it's going somewhere with the toms coming in, more bells, and then once the last guitar comes in on the intro, I switch into, what do? I think 30-second notes into 16ths on the kick, so. So I start with the bell on the accents, move over to the china. Yeah, it just kind of escalates from there. And occasionally I'll squeeze in some Hertas in between those first 4 notes. So. And then the fill leading into the groove is 5s.
That's crazy, man.
So it's a lot of notes, and once I came up with the concept, and as a band, we all democratically, you know, we're on the same page of like, you know, okay, well, yeah, I can pull this off.
Yeah.
I had to actually go home for 24 hours, digest it, practice it at my dad's house because I had my studio there at the time. I was so frustrated that first day because I wasn't able to play, you know, Hertas that fast, or, you know, 30-second notes into 16th notes on the kick. So yeah, it took some time, and
that's awesome, man.
A lot of blood, sweat, and tears.
Yeah.
But I got it, and yeah, so that's pretty much it. Hope you guys enjoyed the breakdown of my drum parts. I'll see you on tour or at a city near you.